Welcome to this Business Central launch event session about Excel layouts. Excel layouts is a brand new feature in Business Central, and I'm super proud to presenting this to you. I really hope that you will enjoy it and your customers will enjoy it. So I'm going to tell you what Excel layouts are. I'm going to show you how you can create a layout in 4 easy steps. Then we're going to talk about where Excel layouts shine, the best use cases for them, a little bit about post-processing and collaboration once you have your report in Excel, and then we'll end the session with some learning resources and go-tos. Excel layouts is basically an interactive report. So in Business Central, for many releases, reports have kind of been designed for print. Excel layouts is the opposite. A report in Excel can serve multiple purposes. You can filter, you can sort, you can slice, you have pivot tables, and you can even have multi-purpose. So maybe you have different worksheets for different purposes. For the advanced reports, you can now mix and match data. So when you have your Excel data in Excel, you can use Power Query to mix that report data set with other data sources. It could be SharePoint lists or on-prem databases, APIs, anything you could imagine. Once an end user have the report in Excel, there's a rich feature set in Excel for post-processing, starting from maybe triggering an automation flow, use different analysis tools such as what-if analysis or analyze data. And why not have your users use the rich commenting, inking features to collaborate on data in a report instead of printing it out or having it in a separate Excel file where you could simply just collaborate on the data on that report directly from Excel. Once you need, or if you need to send this report out in the organization, why not also set the document sensitivity so that only a select few can actually open that report or protect part of the worksheet or workbook. And then, of course, just use sharing in Microsoft 365 and share that report with external or internal people. Now, I think one of the really interesting features about Excel layouts is that we have kind of democratized the design experience, because with Excel layouts, it's not only the report that is in Excel, it's actually also the layout experience in Excel. And that allows end users to participate in creating that layout. Also, the Excel report contains the raw data. So it is easy for the report consumer to see kind of what data is behind these numbers. How did we get to these numbers? Because the numbers, the data is there, the formulas, all of that is in there. So it's easy for the user to understand how the report works. So let's go to Business Central and explore an Excel layout in the wild so you can see the capabilities this feature offers. So here we are in Business Central. And if I search for customer sales lists, I have a report here, customer sales list, where I added an Excel layout as the default. Now, when I go to the request page here, you can see that there is no print or any preview button. That's just a download. And that's how it looks when you have Excel layouts. So I can set the options filters as normal, and then I can run the report and get the Excel file by clicking download. And here I have now generated the customer sales lists. So let's open that in Excel and have a look at that. I will just open and enable these and show you some different options here in this report. The first thing you notice is that the data for the report is here. So that's common for all Excel layouts. It will always be there for reports with an Excel layout. This worksheet is about customers and credit. You can see I have a credit score here that is actually not in the report dataset. This is coming from the outside world. And then I have simply added parts of the columns from the report dataset. And I did some formatting here on using a $sign. I can use whatever I want in Excel. I can change in the layout, I can change the format of the color scheme of this table, however I want that. But to showcase this report, I also added a customer mailing list just to show an example of what's possible here. You notice here that this is a different worksheet in the same report. And in here, I'm just adding the name of the customer, and I have added a concatenation of the customer address in one field. So this is a new field. You can think of this as like a calculated field. And I also added just the sales, total sales for that customer. You notice when you look up here in Excel that, first of all, we're using data here as the first part of that formula. This is because we are using table formulas, and data is the name of the table in Excel that holds the data. And then there's this syntax where we use headings in that table to simply put that in here. So there are no Excel references to a particular cell in here. I'm just referring to the data. Similar, I just added here my own heading. I just wrote total sales. I just wrote address. So I can easily create tables or new tables from the data set in the report data set if I want to. The next worksheet here is a pivot table. I have added a header and some slicers, and I can now interact with my data, look at different locations. I can also interact with the visuals here. And this is a way to slice and dice that data in different ways. It's simply just a pivot table down here where I then add standard Excel slicers and standard Excel charts. So this is sales by location in the same report. And the last worksheet I have is sales by customer. And again, I have added a pivot table with slicers that change the different charts based on what I click on. So it's kind of, it's not a report where I'm printing it out and kind of checking the numbers. This is more, the good use cases for Excel is this where you want to interact with that data and maybe slice it. So this is one example of an Excel layout on a existing report data set that you can where you can see the capabilities of Excel layouts. Right, so you saw a layout in action, and you probably wonder, how can I create a layout? Now that is hopefully really, really easy. You have 4 steps you need to do. You need to get the data sets, this data table, or what we also call the data contract. And then you need to lay out in Excel. Use your imagination. I'm sure you can do something better than what I showed here. When you're happy with that layout, you upload it into Business Central in the report layouts page. It's a new page, and you can then test it there, and you can run it there, and you can set it as default. So that's how it is. So let's go through these steps and create an Excel layout. And this example, I'm just going to modify the existing layout that I showed you and upload that to Business Central. So let's try that out in action. So here I am in Excel. I'm maybe an end user that would like to have this done in a different way. Maybe I'm not so interested in this customer and credit, so I'll just delete that. And I'm not so interested in this customer mailing lists. That's not really for me. Sales by location, I would like to change this into a different text, maybe set the heading to something, sales by, we don't call it location, we actually call it divisions, because these are our sales divisions. And that's actually the main report I want. I'm not really interested in sales by customer. So this is my Excel layout. You notice that this data table here I was talking about, if I go to table design in Excel, you can see it has a name called data. That was the one we referred to. This is just a report data set from Business Central. It has the headings here that are the headings defined in the report data set. And then the worksheet is called data. The only thing that I must do, the only thing I have to do when I'm doing an Excel layout, when I'm creating the layout, is I cannot really change a lot in the data contract in this data sheet. So data sheet must always be kept called data. The table must always be called data, and you cannot rename these fields here. They must look like the metadata in the report objects. So that's kind of the only thing that you must adhere to as a report layouter, is don't change this data contract. Anything else in Excel, almost anything else in Excel is allowed. Don't touch this sensitivity thing in the layout. This will encrypt the workbook, and therefore the Business Central server cannot read that if you try to import it. Another thing that you cannot do is password protect worksheets or workbooks in the layout, because again, the Business Central server cannot read it if you have encrypted it. And the third thing I know of is, for now, we are not importing any macros, any VBA. So don't add that to your layout. But that's kind of the rules. Anything else goes. So let's save this. I will just save this in my download folder where it is, customer sales list. And then I will upload this to Business Central. So let's switch over to Business Central. And here in Business Central, I will open the report layout page. Report layouts. And this is a new page that shows all the layouts in the system. This is also the way we envision all report layout selection, all of that is going to happen. For the 2022 release wave 1, we are not deprecating the old pages. We still need to have backwards compatibility, but this is the way report layouts is supposed to be going forward. Okay, so I can, let me search for the sales customer lists. You can see I had the sales statistics. This is actually the report that you saw with a description and a name. So description and name for layouts is also a new feature in 2022 release wave 1. Some of these will be converted. The built-in layouts from Microsoft will have proper names and proper descriptions, and that would be converted hopefully in a minor update. But I had a new layout I wanted to add for customer sales list. So I'll just make sure I'm here on the customer sales list, and then I can choose new layout. I need to give it already knows that I'm on customer sales list with the appropriate report. So I need to give this a name. Let's call it BC launch event demo. This is the modified layout that we just did. I can choose between format options, so I will just keep it as Excel and click OK. And then now I need to choose which layout file I just made here on my laptop. And if I go to downloads, this is where I kept that file. So I click open, and then now it is imported into Business Central. I have my BC LE demo. So that was kind of step 1, was getting something with a data contract. Step 2 was layouting that in Excel. Step 3 was uploading, and this was uploaded and validated. And step 4 is just, let's test it out. So I'm here on the BC LE demo layout, and I can simply go here and click Run Layout, or sorry, Run Report. This will open the request page, and now I can download it and open it again. And this would then open my layout with just the changes I did, customer sales by division, and with the different sheets that I deleted are no longer there because they are no longer in the layout. So this is really how easy it is for an end user to edit an existing layout, upload it, run it, and test it. Let me go back to Business Central and show you, if you're not that lucky to have an existing Excel layout, how you can then still make an Excel layout. So let's try that. So I'm here in Business Central, and let's just take the sales, customer sales list again. And now we pretend we don't have any. So this is, we don't have any Excel layout. So you can simply, for all reports, go to Send To and choose Excel document data only. If you do this and click OK, Business Central would download like an empty layout for you with just that data contract and a little bit of data, depending on what you chose in your request page options and filters. So you can see I have this data contract. I have a table called data and a worksheet called data, and these columns and with some data. And when you run it like this, you always get a report metadata worksheet that has some data about any filters you added and so on. You can safely just delete this from your layout if you want to. And now you're ready to add whatever you would like to this Excel layout in different worksheets, and you upload and test and run just as I showed you with an existing, modifying an existing layout. So that's it. Pretty simple, isn't it? Let's go back to the deck and see what else we have. All right, so just a recap. To create a layout, you need an Excel workbook with this data contracts. You can either edit an existing layout, as I showed you, or you can get a blank template from the request page, as I showed you. And now you lay out your data as you wish. Don't use VBA macros, don't use password protection, and this document sensitivity, because that will make the Business Central server unable to read that layout file. Then you import it on the reports layouts page, and you can test it and run it, and you can even set that as default. That's it. Now, Excel layouts are particularly good in some examples of reports and use cases, and there are other report data sets where they are not as shiny. They really fit well when the report data set fits Excel. And what I mean by that is that if your report data set is heavily aggregated and you have a lot of formatting in there to just fit it into, say, Word or RDLC and the engine, then Excel doesn't really make a lot of sense, because you can't really do anything on that data. It's too aggregated, and maybe it even formatted it in a way where the data types are all strings, right? But if the report data set fits Excel, like it has pretty good data, and the formatting is, you don't really do any pre-processing of that data, that's a very good fit for Excel. It's also a great fit for an Excel layout if you want the users to interact with the data. If you have a report that you know is something that will go to a printer somewhere, maybe Excel layouts is not really what you need. But if you want users to be able to slice and dice or even play with the data after they get the report, then Excel reports is probably a good choice. And as I said, if you want it on paper, if you don't want it on paper with Excel layouts, then go for that. Since the data sets, you saw the data contract have the data, then there are two concepts in data that's called data lineage and process lineage that kind of leans itself well with Excel layouts. Because since the report already like have the raw data, it's easy for the end user to see what data lies behind the report, and that's sometimes a requirement or sometimes something that users like. They sometimes it's not so nice that it's hidden, like some magic happened and now I have this report. And with Excel layouts, they can kind of go through, oh, these are the numbers, therefore this report makes sense. And that goes for the second part here, process lineage. How did I go from the raw data into what I see? And with an Excel layout, the report in itself have all the steps, all the formulas, everything is there for the user to check how the data comes from the raw data into the results they see. And then finally, a key feature of the Excel layout feature is democratizing the layout experience. If you think of report development in Business Central, there are two parts to it. You need to develop the report data sets. This is what will be in the report object. And there you need a developer and you need to write AL. And then you need to develop the layout. Typically they go hand in hand because you kind of develop the data sets to fit a particular type of layout engine. But with Excel layouts, we might changing from having an AL developer to do all of this. It might be that for some reports, I'm not saying all reports, I'm not saying Excel layouts is the silver bullet to solve all reporting in Business Central. But what I'm saying is that it might be that we can change it from that AL developers are dealing with the report data sets and end users or power users are using Excel to lay out the report. So you don't have to have someone who is expert in the report designer in RDLC or knows the intricacies in Word reporting with XML. So maybe this can be something that change the way you work with customers. It could be that Excel layouts is also a way to prototype a report together with end users. So I think that is something that I hope a lot of both partners and end users will like, this total freedom to change the look and feel. Once you have an Excel layout in your hand as an end user or a customer, you can change almost anything if the data is there in the report data set. Right. Now, since the report artifact, the thing that was generated from a report with an Excel layout, isn't landing in Excel, let's just explore a little bit of what you could imagine doing with that Excel documents as a customer. So maybe you want to do some post-processing in Excel of this particular report. Let's go to Excel to explore some options. There are many things you can do in Excel. This is the raw template data set, so it doesn't really have a lot of options. You can always sort and filter as normal on the data tab here. There are plenty of things to do if that report has tabular data. You could do outlines, you could do what if analysis, you can do a lot of things here to do post-processing, especially if you have a richer data set than what I have. But what I actually found useful even, or I think could be useful even for creating that first report is, why don't we try to use some of the building data analysis tools in Excel directly on the raw data set. So here I'm just on the data contract. And if I click Analyze Data now, Excel will actually already give me possibilities of natural language questions about my data. Excel can already find out how many different customer names there is. It's suggesting some insights. Maybe you want to have a pivot chart on customer by sales amount. I mean, this is actually one of the reports that I added in my original layout. It might be that there are some accounts that are bigger than others, and Excel is asking me, maybe I want to add a pivot chart. So you can even use some intelligence in Excel to guide you on a new layout if you want to. So this is not an Excel session as such. I'm sure that there are many better sessions on how to use Excel, but I think I just wanted to get it out there that there can be a lot of the things that customers would find useful to do after the fact on this data once it's landing in Excel. And I think that's one of the key strengths of Excel layouts, that the actual report is not the final option. It's something where you go beyond just getting that report artifact and then start working with data. Yeah, so some examples of post-processing and data analysis features in Excel. Sort and filter, probably more not on the raw data set, but more on any generated tables you might do. Data tools, if you have data that is applicable for that, you can do forecasting, you can do outline of data insights, I just showed you there. And even Power Pivot, you can start playing around with that report data set and merge it with external data sources. Another set of things you can do once you have that report in Excel is collaboration. So let's take an example. The first report, the standard report layout I added on customer sales list. It had this customers and credit. So maybe I want to say, well, let me sort on credit score 1 or 3. 3 is the ones that have a low credit score, Megan Bond. And it might be that I want to challenge this in my comments, right? I want to do a review, and I want to ask like, what's going on here? So I could put in normal comments that we know from Microsoft 365. I can take notes. I could put in a note about this here. Is this the correct address? And I could even take let me just go here and get my pencil, and I could even start doing some inking. Let's try to say sales by customer, and I can see here that trade research is low, and maybe I want to follow up on these two. Say, let's discuss on Monday. So I could use inking. I can probably even say, this is great, and this is something for that meeting. So I can comment. I can add my own notes. I can do inking, and I can also not on the layout, but on the actual report. I could go. Let me make sure that this is only something I share with the people that I send it to, who can read, who can change. Maybe I don't want anyone to change this report. I could even say this is highly confidential within our organization. So if someone by accident sends this document outside of my organization, the recipients are not able to read that. And now I can share this and say, let's discuss this I'll put this on my OneDrive, and I can share this with my coworkers for the sales meeting on Wednesday, and we can use this as something we discuss. So there are lots of different ways you can collaborate on that report. Once you have, you would have the same capabilities in Word, and maybe part of that in PDF if if you have a PDF reader that can do that. But at least for the comments and for the notes, would probably be mostly suited for a report with an Excel layout. Yeah, so to sum up, different Excel features I could imagine would be interesting for our customers or for your customers: comments, notes, inked, protection of worksheets or workbooks, classification, or even and sharing, and even you could even kick off a Power Automate flow directly from Excel if you so wanted. The final piece of technology I think would be interesting for you to explore when creating Excel layouts is Power Query. Let me show you a very quick demo of how that was used in the report you saw with the credit scores. So back in Excel, if I open the Data tab and click Get Data, you have already the menu about Power Query here. And if I launch the Power Query editor, you will notice that under queries, I have a data source or a query called credit score that actually holds the credit score that you saw in the report. The data is just a data tab from the data contracts. And then what you saw in that worksheet with customers and credit was a merging of these two, or joining of these two data, and then joined in Power Query and then showed in Excel. So this credit score, for instance, this data, if I go here under Advanced Editor, you can see that this resides not in Excel. It actually, well, it does, but it resides on a SharePoint site in an Excel sheet called Credit Scores. So this is just one example of a data source for this data. This data could reside on a SharePoint list. It could reside in an on-premises database or in an API somewhere. So, I mean, just your imagination is the limit of the different other kinds of data you can draw in to that layout and then merge it with the report data set. And all of that merging is not happening on the Business Central server. All of that data is merged, all of this data in Power Query is happening in Excel for the use of running the report. And that's why it enables you to create Excel layouts, even in Business Central Online, that draws data from on-premises databases or files or whatever you can imagine. So I think that could be something interesting for you to explore, how to combine a data set from a report data set from Business Central with additional data sources where you don't have to do that data integration in Business Central. You can do that directly on the desktop of the user running the report. So to sum up for Power Query, you can merge and join the report dataset with data from any data source you can imagine: SQL Server databases, on-premises or in Azure, Power BI datasets, Excel organizational data types, SharePoint lists, any files on either online or on a file server. You could even have a file residing on the desktop of the user running that report. Azure Data Lake, Synapse, APIs, whatever you can imagine. Take that data in Power Query and enrich your report data set to make really compelling reports for Business Central. Okay, so how do I learn more about Excel layouts? Do we have any samples? Yes, we have samples. If you go to aka.ms/BC Excel samples, you would land on a GitHub repository where we have lots of other samples available, but this particular part of the repository is for Excel. You can find the customer sales list layout there. You can find an FAQ with like a lot of different ideas of how to do different things. There's even a walkthrough here of the customer sales list layout that you show in this presentation, and breaking that down into how do you do things like that? How do you work with Power Query? probably a good place to get started, to try out this test layout and explore. And from there, I'm sure you can come up with some great layouts. Right. So here I have downloaded the GitHub repository for samples, and this is the Excel part. So I'm just going to show you what you have here. If you want to do a lunch session for your colleagues or even for a customer, a deck that is the same presentation as this, but with more slides than demos, is available for like free use. You can just take this and copy paste and do whatever you like, lay out in different ways, and spread the word about Excel layouts. And then the test layout is here, and also the credit scores Excel file is here if you want to try that out with Power Query. The test layout will not directly work because it cannot connect to the SharePoint sites that I have added. So you need to modify that, but the file is there for you to do that. And then there's an FAQ and a README, and these will be much more visible if you open them in a browser and browse the data there. So, call to action. You need to get some layouts out there. And I think that this would be a great place to co-author with your data savvy customers. Controllers are let's add it in the profile here. So call to action. The first thing, you need to get some Excel layouts out there for your customers. I'm sure they will love it, and I'm sure that you would find it pleasing to work with Excel and data like that. You have an excellent opportunity to co-author these with some of your data savvy customers. If you go to the finance department, find some controllers that already are using Excel a lot, I'm sure they can come up with some great examples of things that they would love to have in Business Central. And with maybe not a lot of effort, you can make that report data set available for them and make them do their own Excel layouts on that. There would be something that you probably need to learn. Excel table formulas is something I didn't use a lot prior to working with this. So there's some learning resources in the aka.ms Excel repository for you how to learn to work with Excel formulas. And similarly, it might be that you haven't tried to work with Power Query and Power BI before. So maybe invest a little bit in understanding these technologies. You don't have to go in and write that. When I showed you that advanced editor, you're not writing that as such. There are wizards to get to these directly from Excel. So it doesn't have to be super complicated to get started on that. And that's it. That's the session on introducing Excel layouts. There are a number of related sessions. If you want to learn a little bit more about reporting in telemetry, there's a section of what's new in telemetry, specifically about that new signal we added on reporting telemetry. There's a session on what's new in financial management, where we have introduced some improvements in financial reporting, so you might want to check that out. If you want to learn about all the new reporting platform features, at least as an overview, go to the What's New in Server and Database session. And then finally, the What's New in VS Code and AL will give you a deeper dive into the developer experience, both for Excel layouts and also the new layout part of a report object in AL. So with that, I say thank you. I hope that you enjoyed the session. I hope you enjoy the other sessions for the Business Central launch events. Thank you so much.